Guys, I have a cold, so you're gonna have to deal with it. But the show goes on. I don't care what you think about these conflicts. Whether you like them, whether you hate them, whether you support or hate the men who participate in them, it doesn't matter. If you intellectually can't understand the value behind getting real-world combat information that is incredibly valuable, because combat, you have to understand, is changing a lot right now, then I don't know what to tell you. In today's video, we'll be talking about a very complex issue, and that is going to be urban combat. A place that urban combat is taking place in right now is in Gaza. So with us, we're gonna have two Israeli special operations men who, as of 4 days ago, were fighting on the front. So a lot of you are going to be angry at the way they think about their convictions. Again, I don't care. They're gonna be the way they're gonna be. We're not gonna censor them. This is history. This is what's actually occurring on the ground. This is reality. Separate your emotions from however you feel and learn some very valuable information. In today's video, they are two professional military members fighting against a terrorist organization. Again, I don't care what you think about that. Here's the thing. This goes both ways of the information that we're learning. Whether you are fighting against an enemy that is entrenched in a city, which is a very plausible situation, or whether you are on the opposite end, this information is highly, highly valuable. So I hope you guys will enjoy, as today we talk about urban combat from men who are currently fighting in a complex urban environment. But before we get into it, we do have to thank the sponsors of this channel. So the biggest sponsor of the channel is the Sonoran Desert Institute. Charles is actually working, so he can't screw this up. I'm sure he'd say something about Israel, but we are where we are. So if you're looking to get your start in gunsmithing, they're the people to go to. They support the channel, and the support they gives us allows us to bring you this type of material for free. And who can we not forget? Micah?
Primary Arms.
Probably combat-proven optics at this point in these conflicts. And where are they made?
Not in Israel.
No, the mountains back there. And of course, Mantis. If you're trying to get better at shooting, dry fire is the way to go. Mantis is awesome. It will turn your weapon into a dry fire machine with a little laser so you can see where your impacts are. We love them. It also helps you with that trigger reset. Go and check them out. And finally, AAC. All of our ammunition is sponsored through AAC, so we can't thank them enough. With all that being said, guys, this is a very important topic, so let's get into it. So if you're not familiar with my background, my name is Michael Jones. I am a former Air Force Special Warfare member, served for 9 years, served in survival, and then as a TAC-P. This is a topic that I can't speak to. This is why we brought on two experts from this local conflict. You have to understand, guys, they were just in the conflict. So again, separate your feelings from the information that you're going to learn. We do have to give a big shout out to Agilite. It should be noted that Agilite did sponsor them, get them out here and everything. Agilite is a equipment company. They make a lot of good stuff. Full disclosure, we did have the Israeli public affairs hit us up when the war kicked off, asking if we wanted to do anything. We declined. We try to stay as neutral as possible on this stuff. So understand, we're not connected at all with any of the public affairs or anything that's going on there. This is merely for combat information. With all that being said, gentlemen, please, come on. How's it going? Thanks for coming. Gentlemen, please introduce yourselves for the audience. I understand you have to say a little bit more anonymous, but please go ahead.
All right. Well, I served in Egoz, which is a commando unit for 4 years. I've been in a reserve unit right now for the past 4 or 5 months in Gaza.
I'm Lev. I was in paratroopers in the 101st Israeli 101st Paratrooper Brigade for about 2.5 years, and now I've been in reserves, also in the paratroopers, for the last 7-8 years. And I was in Gaza for a little bit less time. I was in for about a month and a half, and before that we were basically up north for a couple months, and before that, right after the 7th of October, we were clearing houses and clearing Israeli bodies out of Kfar Aza.
Yep. Gentlemen, so there's a lot to talk about today. I do want to start off by saying that we did talk to the U.S. government to change the weather, so it's really close to Gaza right now for you guys. I'm sure you guys are used to the cold and everything, right? Yeah. This is perfect weather for what you do.
Yeah, this is exactly what we do.
It is what it is, guys. We can't control the weather on that. But that being said, gentlemen, let's get into it. We're going to kick this thing off with the most intense information, and that's going to be urban combat. There's a lot to it. We're not going to make you guys experts in urban combat, but we're going to learn some firsthand experience for the guys who have been there as of recently, as a couple days ago. Yeah. So, gentlemen, I know there's a lot here. You guys are the subject matter experts. Please take it away.
Yeah, I would first start by saying that I at least feel like I'm by no means an expert in urban combat. I feel like you'd have to be years in urban combat to become an expert.
That's exactly what the Ukrainians said. They're like, oh, we're not. I don't feel like I don't have enough experience killing people. I'm like, you guys have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, like I've seen the unit I'm in getting so much better over the period of time, and you kind of develop a sense for it, for
Definitely.
sure.
And same by us.
And developing a spatial awareness of, you know, what windows are looking at you, where you're, and also when you're doing CQB, you probably experience this when you like do something wrong and keep going. You're like, ooh, I feel like I'm slightly more in danger than I should be right now. You know what I mean? So you have that a lot, and then you're like, oh, okay, I can do that better next time. But like, there are definitely a lot of lessons we learned about how Hamas fights, how they set up situations for us to fall into, ambushes or whatever, how they try to draw us in. You want to talk about some of that?
We had some reports of them basically like using tape recordings of like baby crying and stuff like that, injuring dogs so that the dog is making like a whining noise, just things that draw you into to an area to be like, okay, what's that? And that's where they want to ambush you and hit you with explosives, RPGs, and just lead you into their spot and take you out.
There's also the classic ambush technique, which is where they would, you know, fire at us from a position, hoping we would close the distance and move in so that they could hit us with another ambush.
Yeah.
That's all the time.
How does that typically look?
I mean, it'll look like you come to like an open area, say like an kind of an open city center or something, or like a open marketplace or something. You're in a house and suddenly your tank gets hit by an RPG or something, right? And if they're shooting just an RPG-7 at a tank, it's not going to do anything to the tank. They're doing that so that you're going to come out and try to get over to their building and attack them, and that's exactly the last thing you need to do.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because you got some hungry predator drones up there in the sky who can help you out with that.
So when you guys are hearing noises now, whether it be whining dogs, crying kids and stuff, are you sending drones up to investigate beforehand now?
Definitely. We're reporting it, and in any ways that don't endanger our teams to investigate the sources of these sounds.
Yeah.
It's an indication to more combat. We have drones for that. We have more expendable methods.
I mean, anytime we can basically send in a drone, but you can only carry so many drone batteries. And those little DJI Avata batteries, they last like 18 minutes or something. How long do those things last?
It depends on the drone, but
the Avata, the one with the closed off propellers.
That one's a short battery.
Yeah, 8, and maybe you carry like 9 batteries, 10 batteries or something.
Yeah.
So obviously you can't send it everywhere, but yeah, obviously if you see something suspicious, if you hear something suspicious, you're gonna send that in.
You said you guys are using the DJI Avatas.
Yeah.
Why is that?
They're super durable and they're really small, basically.
So if I'm not mistaken, the Avatas have the protection around the propellers.
Yeah.
So do you guys how are you implementing them? How are you using them?
So if we were going to go into a house, and we felt that there was a high chance, either because of intelligence reports that we'd got saying that that was a dangerous house, a house that had known Hamas operatives working out of it or something, or if someone had seen movement in that house in the couple days leading up to that. So when we got there, we might send in the drone, send it in through one of the windows or through a hole in the wall or through the door, and just have that drone go around as much as possible.
So you're actually sending the drone into the building.
Yeah.
No shit.
And you send the drone inside the building, and then you have the drone operator, right, who's wearing his VR glasses, and he also has a flip-down phone screen connected to the drone. So he's looking through the glasses, and then the platoon commander is next to him looking at the screen. Maybe also the company commander, depending on where he is in the combat. Jeez. So then the platoon commander can build a plan for how to clear the building because he knows the internal layout, and you can look for suspicious stuff. And if you see that there's someone inside the building, you can choose to deal with him as you please.
How are individuals typically, so combatants, how are they reacting to these drones flying in their face?
So it kind of depends on the mental and physical state of the combatant. You have some guys that are like their tunnel was airstriked or something. They come out and they haven't eaten or really, they might be injured and they may be sitting in a house for a couple days waiting for someone to come in so they can throw their last grenade at him. And those guys are just gonna kind of just look at it, maybe, right? But then you have some guys who are trying to hit it with like brooms or sticks or like shooting at it, throwing rocks at it, trying to swat them out of the air. It's hilarious. It's really good.
Can they survive that, being swatted out of the air?
I mean, who knows? It doesn't really matter. Like, I think a drone is worth the terrorist. Like, for most people. But yeah, they're pretty strong. What happens a lot when you send them into a house is that they just eventually lose connection with the operator. So either he sees that it's losing connection and pulls out, or he loses connection and just falls on the floor. And then when we clear the house afterwards, we just kick it to the side as we're going through and then pick it up after.
DJI Avadas, huh?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
they're nice.
You mentioned throwing a grenade at it. Why would they not just shoot it? Why would they throw a grenade at a drone? That makes no sense to me.
I mean, it's kind of like a Hamas tactic in general. They realize that because of rules of engagement, if they're out walking with a uniform, a vest, and a weapon, they're going to get shot. But if they're, at the other extreme, walking around in civilian clothing with nothing visible on them, they're not going to get shot most of the time. So, what a lot of them have started doing is they leave their rifles in a stash somewhere, and then they walk around with just grenades in their pockets, because you can still do something with a grenade. And if you're looking from a UAV or from a helicopter or from a drone, you're not going to spot a grenade in someone's pocket. So some of these guys end up in some house and all they have with them is grenades.
Yeah.
Hence throwing the baseball at them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good times. Now, in terms of your drones, are you guys implementing thermal drones at all?
Yeah, for sure. We have thermal drones. I don't think I can say on what level and how many and how we use them exactly, but we have thermal everything. I'll tell you some interesting stuff after. But we have a lot of thermals. Thermals are one of the big changes in this war for sure. Implementation for marksmen, for snipers, and just for general use. Because tanks have always had them in the IDF for a long time. But it's nice to have, being able to cross-identify and have a tank say, I see something, and look at it with other thermals, and you understand what you're talking about. Being able to look from above with thermals it's super critical.
Now, we've talked a lot about drones on your side. What are you guys seeing in terms of drones from the enemy side?
I mean, did you see any on the 7th of October?
I personally didn't.
Yeah, I mean, there are videos from 7th of October of them taking out tanks with drone drop munitions that had their open hatches. They weren't basically ready for it. FPV drones attacking like comms towers and stuff like that.
Let's slow down for a second. Let's talk both those really quickly. So there's two types of drones. If you've seen the Ukraine video, you're going to be familiar with this, but you have your typical like DJI drone, big old quadcopter, and they can have little fishing lure attachments to drop fishing lures.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's a grenade or a munition of some type, like a mortar round that will explode on impact.
Yeah.
Then you have the FPVs. Those are basically racing drones. They're flown from the first person. Those are used with a munition attached to suicide into something, whether it be a human being or some type of vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure they understood.
No, yeah, for sure. And and then so there's a third type that they use, which is just reconnaissance drones.
Okay.
And those are probably the ones they use the most, I think.
Yeah.
Also because if you see a drone with something dangling from it, we're not currently doing that really very much. So if you see a drone like that, it's very clear that it's an enemy drone, and it's going to get shot down within seconds, either by like someone with a smart shooter on his gun or just some good marksman. We do have drone jamming stuff, but we also have a bit of a proliferation of smart shooters. You know those?
I'm not familiar with those. Please tell me about them.
It's basically a site. It's a site called the Smart Shooter. It's an Israeli startup, and it's connected to a unit within the handle over here, and then there's basically a pin that blocks the trigger. So if you have it on Smart Shooter mode, you can use it regularly as a regular AR-15, or you can make it so that it locks onto a target, and then you squeeze the trigger, and it lets it fire when it's at optimal.
I am familiar with that.
Yeah.
So it can track targets.
Yeah. So those are great for drones.
Yeah.
It can track a drone?
Yeah, you can track a drone, shoot it out of the sky, 100 meters, easily. Farther than that, it gets a little bit sketchy, but it's still doable. Yeah. And you can shoot out cameras, stuff like that, really easily.
Now, do you guys have any tactics as far as when you see drones overhead, if you're unsure if they're friendly or enemy? What do you typically do?
I mean, you're gonna take cover. You're gonna take cover for sure, and you're gonna try to figure out. You're gonna say, you're just gonna ask like, what is that drone? And then someone's gonna get on the radio, figure out, say who has a drone up. Someone's gonna say I have a drone up, and then you're gonna say Akhvan Takin, which means good drone, basically.
Yeah.
And then everyone's gonna yell it, and everyone's gonna know.
Yeah.
Although you don't wait around.
If they take too long getting that answer back to you, that drone's going down, and it's.
Have you guys ever shot a friendly drone?
Oh yeah.
I haven't, but someone in my company did. We were all so proud of him. He was like, he shot a drone that belonged to a different company, and we were like having a rivalry with them. So we were like, yeah, fuck the Messiah. Yeah, good job, you did it. We called him like drone hunter and stuff.
This seems to be a problem with Ukrainians as well, where it's hard to identify whose drones are who.
Yeah.
There's just not a good method of that currently. So
Yeah.
I can see that's still a problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just not worth the risk.
Now, are you still seeing those drones this late in the war from the enemy, or is it
Fewer.
kind of slowed down?
Much
There's
fewer.
a lot fewer.
We've denied them a lot of the places where their drone operators can operate a drone from, basically. As far as good fortified buildings that are close to their tunnels. And it's kind of a very high risk, low reward activity to leave the safety of a tunnel to go and position yourself in a spot where you have a direct line of sight to the drone, which means you're either going to be in a window or you're going to be out in the open, just so that you can get reconnaissance on a drone. It would have to be part of a much bigger attack, and there's not a lot of ROI on it,
Now, when it comes to tunnels, you guys have talked about that a few times. We're not talking about the tunnels in New York from those other Jews. I'm just fucking with you. How are you guys dealing with those? How are those typically assaulted? How are those taken care of? What are you doing with those?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do with them, but like on the immediate level and in the dealing with them on a deeper level, which we can't talk about.
Sure.
For sure, that'll definitely get censored. But on an immediate level, it's basically just adds, like when you're in urban combat, you have the stuff that's on your eyesight, and then you have all the above. So now you also have the below, basically.
Yeah.
So on one hand, you're basically expecting people to pop out not just from behind corners and around doors. People could come out literally from a tunnel because they could pop their head up. When you're inside a tunnel, I guess it's probably pretty disorienting to know what's going on above you.
Sure.
So sometimes people can pop up and take a while to orient themselves. But basically, you're looking for suspicious things, and there's a lot of things that look like tunnels in Gaza. There's really bad sewage infrastructure.
Yeah.
So a lot of them just dig sewage drainage pits outside of their houses and then cover them, obviously, because you don't want your kids falling into a pit of sewage.
Yeah.
So they cover them with a piece of wood and then sometimes some trash, just because they're Arabs and like making piles of trash. So then you get to that and you say, oh shit, is this a tunnel? You start take a grappling hook, you start pulling stuff away. You're like, oh my God, it's got a wooden cover. You're like, oh my God, wooden cover, you get the drone. And you pull that off and you throw in a grenade. And then you send in a drone to look and they're like, yeah, it's just full of shit. And sometimes the drone loses connection and then falls into shit, but that's...
So you are sending drones into tunnels then?
In a limited sense, because the connection capabilities. And there are drones that are better suited for that. Yeah, I'm not sure. In my unit, we don't have much, and we probably can't talk about that.
Yep, I understand fully.
As an infantryman, for us, we're basically just finding the tunnels and making sure no one's coming out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And the most we're going to do is throw a couple grenades down there or something. And then we're going to leave it to professionals to take care of that.
Until a tunnel is taken care of, and the special forces units that deal with that kind of sensitive thing, infantry's just going to be, like Lev said, pointing their rifles at the threat.
Maybe taking selfies.
Yeah, taking selfies.
Let's talk a little bit about how you guys are reacting to contact. What are the typical engagement distances you guys are seeing? How are you putting down fire superiority? How does it work with the IDF or with your teams in particular?
So in general, once contacted, an entire team will search for cover or just get down and return fire. Generally, we're getting contacted from pretty far ranges.
What would you say, like in meters?
We're talking like 100, like above 150 usually is what we're dealing with. From shooting from afar, snipers, RPGs, they tend to get pretty close. Those guys like to get in close so that they can be accurate. More like 50 under the hundreds.
I mean they do that a lot, which is difficult for tanks to deal with, but like for the trophy system to deal with and stuff for really close shots. But they shot at a tank that was right outside of our building, hit it with an RPG from I think like 200 meters or something. It was like a really far shot, and I think part of that is because they realized that once we get up to where they are, there's going to be like an overwhelming amount of fire on them. So they kind of want to shoot and then get out of there.
When you say sniper fire, are you talking from AKM or specialized weapon systems?
When I say sniper fire, they're using M24s.
Interesting.
Some Dragunovs also. But generally it's been M24s, what I've seen.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of snipers, which is strange because you'd think that they'd be very prolific in a urban scenario like that, but
you really would.
Just a lot of pot shots from AKs and stuff. A lot of the times if you're engaged from far away, sometimes there's not even anything you will do about it. You kind of get cover, so it's kind of like a reminder, I should probably not be like sticking my head out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if you're engaged from really far away, if there's just bullets coming over your head, you're gonna try to figure out, use the tools you have to figure out who's shooting you, if it's friendly, if it's not friendly, and then have someone do something about it. But it might not be in your area. Like if I'm being shot at from 300 meters away, and that's a direction of fire that I'm definitely close to because there's a friendly unit over there. So we're just gonna tell them, and they're gonna deal with it. They're probably already dealing with it, you know. So like, but definitely, yeah, get some cover, figure out what's going on, make sure that all your angles are covered, because sometimes they'll try to give you some fire to keep you down, and then they're gonna send out an attack, or they're gonna wait for you to come into the attack. So
How's it been for you as far as recognizing when the shots are coming towards you, or whether the shots are just the general background of what's going on? Like
Very
recognizing the
recognizable.
chatter of different weapons.
So
Yeah.
once you spent some time, like I have to say, when I first went into Gaza, I didn't really know that. I knew that different calibers have different sounds, but once you're living it day to day and you're hearing the gunfire of the tanks, and the Apaches, and you just get to know that every gun has its own voice, and the AK-47 is just you can spot it in just a fire of an array of weapons. You'll hear that crack, you'll be like, that's enemy fire. And if it's not in your quadrant, then you're gonna get on the comms, and you're gonna let the relevant battalion know.
yeah, although in urban warfare it can get really confusing with all the echoes off of buildings.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to hear, you know, who's shooting and from where. And very often you're kind of just aware that a firefight or something is happening somewhere, because you hear a lot of fire coming from one area. You try to kind of figure out what's going on, and then maybe you might see like the 669 rescue helicopters coming in, and then you know we have injured people, or you know, you'll just hear something interesting about it on the radio. And then you have, did you guys have a radio station with like Radio Halal? You have that?
Yeah. We were hardcore on the
to
radios.
blur the name of it. Basically,
Whenever you're on guard duty, you just got this little mini radio next to you.
No, I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about, we had basically, like, everyone wants to know what's going on all the time, right? So we ended up just having a once a day at like 8:30 p.m. or 9 p.m. like on one of the radios, like one of the radio bandwidths, someone just gave the news for the whole day.
Oh,
It was
interesting.
great. Like, we found these terrorists and killed them. This guy got injured. We found a tunnel here.
Oh,
we found
yeah.
this. We found
Yeah,
this.
yeah, we would do
and
that
everyone's
too.
just listening to it. They're like, oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah,
You call
so
it
we had a
Radio
guy.
Halal?
Yeah, Radio Halal.
So we had a guy who would also give the sports news for soccer for all the Israelis, and he would just, right after he goes after the day's updates of what actually is relevant, you know, tactically,
real
he just
talk?
starts going. He also did like updates on celebrities. What's Eden Ben Zakan doing? You know,
Yeah, nobody cares about soccer, except for the rest of the world.
Yeah, except for the rest of the world.
Except for the rest of the world. Are you into soccer now that you've been in Israel for a
I
while?
don't give a shit.
absolutely not.
There we go. Do you guys still like American football?
I don't care about football.
I don't really
Sorry.
follow sports now.
There's a little bit of MMA, but like that's about it.
That's fair. That's fair.
And yeah.
Gentlemen, so we have our kit set up on the ground. Right here I have a Cryo DS. This is a pretty close setup to what I ran in the U.S. military. Obviously, my job was way different. My level of training was different. Everything was different. Your carriers are different in terms of camouflage, in terms of what you have on it, everything. So let's talk a little bit about your kit setups. Let's go ahead and start with you and talk about the hows and whys. People want to know why your kit is set up. You've been fighting for a while. You probably still got dust on that thing. Let's get into it.
All right. So I'm running a Agilite K0, running level 4 armor, side plates. As far as ammunition, I usually run around about 6 to 8 mags. I'll run a double mag in the weapon. I'll have another mag on my battle belt, 3 mags here, and then a couple more in my battle pack. Medical gear. So medical gear. I'm running 2 tourniquets usually, one over here, and I'll usually keep another one either here or in my pack. And then over here I have a personal bandage. And on my battle belt, so I'm running a personal first aid kit over here. It's got combat gauze and some basic stuff. And then finally I got these scissors for cutting through uniforms and vests and whatnot. Next, ammunition. Lastly, I have 2 9mm mags over here. Okay, and then I have my personal sidearm.
What are you typically carrying?
I'm typically carrying a Glock 19.
Nice.
All right.
Weapon light, optic,
Yeah, both.
good times.
Over here we got multi-tool. It's a must-have. It's an SOG. I use it usually to like cut wires, fences. Helps me out sometimes when I'm busting into a building or trying to just get through an area. On that note, as far as breaching and stuff like that, I'm usually running also a cutter in back in my battle pack.
Do you mean like a
little
bolt cutter?
yeah, bolt
Yep.
cutter. Yeah. Front, we got here red light. This is mostly stuff that I'm going to use like inside a building once we've taken it over. I got some stick lights in here, so you're going to use them to basically mark hazards or anything that needs to be marked. It's useful also for miscellaneous things, like say we have like a detonation cord set up and we don't want guys to step on it. So we'll like cut this and we'll just drizzle a little bit of that glowing liquid on it, and then the team leader will explain to the team that
Do you use different colors for different things? I understand the tactics, techniques, and procedures between different units or militaries are going to differ heavily, so that's fine. Just understand that Chem 6 are important.
There's also some stuff we can't say about color marking.
I understand.
Yeah. And finally in here, I always carry some kind of pen or a marker. It's first and foremost for drawing pictures of your teammates on the wall and your commanders. It's also very useful for just, you're going to write, usually use spray paint, but if you don't have spray paint, you can also use a marker and just start writing different directions so that you know where your friends are and where the enemies are. I'm usually carrying 2 frags on me. As the lead marksman, I was actually running 6 frags at one point. I put 2 on my battle belt and I put 2 over here, and I put 2 more pouches up here. So I was actually running 6, but 2 is the basic. So this is a new addition to my pack, to my plate carrier. In Gaza, I found that running around with my usual pack, I just was kind of like a turtle, and like when I was opening doors, I was getting stuck with my battle buddy. So I ended up just not taking a pack with me. So this guy's great because it's very minimalist, and it's just carrying the hydration bladder and very basic things. I'll usually have a smoke on me as well, which will stick up front. As far as additional gear in the pack, this is something that we use in my team, which we basically keep our batteries in here, spare batteries for each kind of night vision, flashlights, PEC, optics. We'll throw in like these little things that absorb the moisture. Another thing that I usually run up front is just 2 spare batteries for immediate optics or nods and thermal. So when I have those and it's daytime, I'm usually going to keep them in my pack.
And then for context for everybody, you are getting resupplies fairly regularly, every 2 days at minimum, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually every day, but shit happens. Sometimes it's more than that.
Sure. And then you have a kind of a, not to delve too much into it, but you're essentially operating out of a FOB, like a forward operating base to some extent, correct?
Usually it's ever changing.
Yeah.
At a certain point though, you're gonna stop and it's gonna turn into a FOB. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
We got a lighter here, and that is for lighting up hookahs and cigarettes. Over here we got a carabiner, which honestly, it started out as a logistic thing, just bus filled with gear of an entire platoon. Put your helmet on there, knee pads, anything that has a string, you just connect it all there, and you have one piece to just carry it around. Also, like in the event you have like a guy gets injured, you just connect all his shit to that one thing, and then it's all one piece.
Gotcha. Well, thank you. Lev, go ahead.
Yeah, let's get right into it. So over here, I'm also running a K0. I have mine set up for a machine gun, specifically for the negative light machine gun. Now right here, I have a saw. Unfortunately, it's just...
don't even start.
It doesn't do it for me. I am not feeling the itch. I'm not feeling anything, down below. But
Isn't cold with you.
Yeah, exactly. I need to form a bond. So basically over here, I got 2 drum pouches that I basically sewed for myself and just made them for the negative pouches. Then when I got there, they gave me a different kind of negative drum, like a newer one that didn't fit. So I had to kind of stitch them together and make some changes to them. But basically, so K0, I'm running obviously also level 4 plates in here. If we start at the front and move our way around, I guess. So you have, I just added a molly surface on the front. I keep 1 frag grenade right here. Another frag grenade I keep on my belt back here. I'll show you in a sec. Over here I have a tourniquet right there in the front. I like it right here because it's super obvious to anyone else where it is on me. They don't need to look for it anywhere. And it's just right there, right in the front. It's impossible to miss if I'm lying on my back or on my side or something. Over here I have another tourniquet on the dangler below. Here I have just a general purpose pouch. Inside here I got a bunch of goodies. I have a brush for cleaning dust off my gun, because you're basically, whenever you're stopped, it's just a great opportunity to just sit down and just start dusting it off, getting into those nooks and crannies.
That's some professional soldiering shit right there.
Exactly. And obviously I always saw off my toothbrushes, also the ones for my teeth, just makes them easier to put in your pocket. Sometimes I keep a toothbrush in my front pocket, makes it a little easier. Over here I have also a headlamp with a red function. Super important with a headlamp is to have a headlamp that you can immediately go to red with. Some people bought headlamps that you have to click through white to get to the red, which is just stupid. It's extremely stupid and unprofessional. Good to have a good one. I like the Petzl Tico ones. I have like one for backpacking and one for tactical stuff. Keep them separate. I have over here a Right in the Rain notebook that I write down military secrets about the IDF that I sell online and post to War Thunder on. I have a...
That's a little too close up.
yeah, I have a Laffy Taffy blue flavor. I highly recommend the blue flavor. I have a pen, and I have my multi-tool in here right now, although usually I end up rocking my multi-tool over here in my front pocket. I used to have it mounted on my belt, and then I realized too often I'd like take off my belt and hang it up somewhere, and I just need a multi-tool. So I started just keeping it over here. I usually keep more batteries in here also, and I have this bad boy. So in addition to the multi-tool, I like to carry a bicycle multi-tool because these are basically just based around common fasteners like Torx and Allen keys that you don't always have on a multi-tool. And you always need those, obviously, tightening down optics mounts and like night vision and stuff. And I have over here a letter from my wife because we were getting mail basically in and out, back and forth. So it's nice to have that so you can sit around and read it every once in a while. So over here, another tourniquet. I have the dangler up here in the front. It's all batteries basically. So if I have loose batteries, what I do is I tape them around like that with electrical tape just to make sure that the ends aren't gonna be touching other batteries and discharging. And I have just like some random shit. I have some like really heavy duty needles and wax thread. This has gotten a bit dirty by now. Should be rewound up or something. But that's just thread that's you can fix anything with basically. It's almost like a zip tie in how strong it is. I have a little bit of one wrap just wrapped up, which is great for either for yourself or if you see some idiot with all his like straps messed up and you're like, just put him out of his misery. So over here I have a lighter. I got Quick Clot. I got combat gauze. And I usually have some Israeli bandages in here that seem to have disappeared. So yeah.
It's funny, we've always carried Israeli bandages, but for some reason it's very ironic Israelis carrying Israeli bandages. It's
funny.
Why. Yeah, it's very
I mean, it's like the basic, like from basic training, basically, that was the basic individual, like that was the basic IFAC, is you have an Israeli bandage and a tourniquet all the time.
Do they call it bandage since you're already in Israel?
They call it personal bandage. Tachboshet ishit. So over here I got the drum pouches. Over here on the left, I'm running a knife. This is a Benchmade Nimrivus, I think. Great knife. Honestly, it's just so handy having a fixed blade because with a fixed blade, you can cut anything with it. It gets dirty, you just wash it off. It's not like a folder where it gets in there. And obviously, it's right here in a defensive posture over here on the plate carrier. Super easy to pull out. And you're just always cutting something. If you're like going through a greenhouse, you have to cut through cloth, or if you're honestly, you can even cut, because it's serrated, you can really easily cut through like electrical cables and stuff if you need them to tie stuff up. And over here, got a picture on the front, Polaroid picture of my wife and dog, dog.
Thank you for
That's nice. And it's also a great place to keep rolled cigarettes before you're ready to smoke them. Don't tell my wife that. Over here in this...
It's very much so too late for that.
Too late for that, yeah. Who knows, maybe she won't see this. Drum pouches, side plate carriers, and over here on the back, I just put, this is like our unit patch. We're the patrol unit within the company, and I just put my last name because a lot of people have the same plate carrier, so it makes it a little easier to find it.
Always mark your gear.
Yeah, exactly. Over here in the front, I also have a pair of scissors. These are honestly, like, in addition to just the actual first aid aspect of them, they're just so useful. All the time, use them for just everything. Like half the time, instead of pulling out a knife, we'll just pull out a pair of scissors. So if I move over to the belt, dick strap disactivated. All right. So over here, I got another tourniquet. So that's the third tourniquet, basically. Here I have a homemade holster for my gun. This is the same gun, but not the same setup. So this is a M&P 2.0 compact, and I also run it with a 17-round magazine when it's over here. And I have a Hollow Sun optic on it, and I have a TLR 7A on the front, because this is also my EDC gun that I appendix carry.
All your pistols are personally procured, correct?
Exactly. They're all personal handguns, which kind of makes it's kind of an interesting thing about the handgun market in Israel, which is that it's kind of middle of the line. Everyone's running compact handguns because you want it to be small enough to carry it, but big enough that you can use it and shoot it comfortably. So that's that. Over here, single frag pouch. And then this is empty right now, but this is usually has about 110 or 120 rounds, like loose rounds of ammo for the saw, which I can just whip out in an emergency and load in, or I can use it to fill up one of my drums when I empty it. Over here in the front, canted pistol mag right there. I started out the war with 2 vertical ones, one for the pistol, one for the multi-tool, and I just found out that I was sitting so much on the ground that it just really digs into your hips, starts cutting off your nerves. So I switched to a canned one like that on the side. And over here I got mechanics gloves, the fingerless Agilite ones. These are great. You really need gloves in urban combat. Everything is disgusting that you're touching. It's either disgusting or it's dangerous and sharp, or it's just really dirty. So having gloves is super useful. And yeah, that's my setup. Let's move over to the helmet real quick. So my helmet, this is not my helmet. My helmet is an Armor Source. I don't have a light on the side, although this is actually really sick, and I might start doing this. That's really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. I have the Core Survival strobe on mine as well. In the back, I sometimes keep, like every once in a while, I'll keep some spare batteries in here or something. I don't have a counterweight per se, but I have used like a box of 5.56 ammo before as a counterweight, which helps me carry ammo also for my battle buddy, who's a marksman. Now, this one is Peltor's, but I'm rocking the OpsCore amps. Love them to death. And then, yeah, I have a mount on the front for my binos. And during the day, what I'll usually do is I'll open up my assault pack. My assault pack, by the way, Hill People Gear Terra Humera.
So good.
Great pack. I got this because I used to do a lot of mountain biking. So basically what I have over here in my assault pack is another drum. And then I have this case that some Trijicon optic or something came in. And what I do with this case is I keep my night vision in here, so it's like super protected. And then during the at night, I will take out my night vision and I'll put my GoPro into here with my dark glasses, and just keep those glasses 100% protected from the elements. In here, I also have a single, like usually 1 or 2. Right now I have one tan sandbag. This is like a multi-purpose thing. Obviously, if you need to entrench in a hurry that you weren't planning on it, it's good to have everyone carrying sandbags. But mostly what we do is if we're searching houses looking for intelligence stuff, looking for like maps, radios, IDs, papers, whatever. So for each house, we'll put that stuff in one of these bags and then write the house number on the bag and then tie it up with a zip tie, and then we can give that to intelligence officers, and it's super organized for them. And then they like us. I have a Platypus 2-liter water bottle. These are great. This isn't always in my assault pack, but if I do want to carry extra water here, I'll do it in here. I got a marker, and like you said, got to write north, south, east, west, and everything on all the doors. A charger cable for my thermal. The thermal isn't here, I didn't bring it, but I just have a little handheld AGM thermal, and it's usually full of snacks, which is super important. Yeah.
What's the best snack to bring?
Beef jerky.
Beef jerky is great. Snickers.
Launch off of like some weird Hebrew word or something like that.
Just a hummus, just a pocket full of hummus. You know, fill up the pocket and you just reach in and get a handful.
Just squeeze it out.
Squeeze it out of your hand.
I like to fill up a hydration bladder with tahina.
Yeah.
Tahini.
Tahini. Yep. Yeah. So that's my setup basically. Yeah.
Awesome. Gentlemen, I also want to note that all of your gear is green. So this is standardized across IDF. This is for friendly force identification, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's super important. Can I talk about that for a sec?
Please.
So basically, this is always an issue we're running into in reserves, where somebody will, instead of using their like issued green jacket, they'll say like, well, I have this wonderful black jacket at home. I have like a North Face jacket or something. Show up with that. And then you have this bad situation where, you know, someone else, like maybe a tank, is looking through his night vision sights or something, just sees a guy running around with a plate carrier and black jacket when we're all supposed to be wearing green. So it's super dangerous. Super important to stay standardized with the colors, even if it means you can't have your swag jacket. Yeah.
You know, there's different ways of doing friendly force identification. Ukraine, we saw a lot of tape. With the IDF, it's all just Ranger green across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. It's effective.
Discipline, keeping your helmet on.
Yeah.
At all times.
Yeah. What do you guys wear the chef's hat?
I hate it. Get stuck on so much stuff when you're going through a doorway.
So that thing's, you know, it's supposed to be used for open warfare, you know,
Okay.
like open field stuff. So in urban warfare, there's a lot of people take them off.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
It's not really doing you any favors.
For sure. All right, gentlemen. Well, we've gone through all of our gear. Let's go ahead and get into our first topic, which is going to be basic urban movement. So right here, we're going to be talking about basic urban combat movement. Gentlemen, I know you have a lot to talk about here, so please take it away.
All right. So our positions in our teams are lead machine gunners and lead marksman. What that means is that we lead the movement of the team, and sometimes more than that.
So that's the company.
Part of the job description is just looking out for all possible threats, whether it's suspicious things on the ground, some bombs, booby traps, landmines. You know, you're also looking at the windows in an urban environment. You know, you have buildings on all sides, so we kind of split it up. Like if he's going to be on the left, I'm going to be on the right. So we divide the work between us. He's watching top right, I'm watching top left, and also both watching the forward advancement of our team.
In terms of go ahead, Lev.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say that. Also, anytime we stop for a second, say we get to like a corner of a building, and we're not moving forward yet, so we'll usually in between us, at least with my battle buddy, what we would do is we'd create common language. Basically, we'll say like, that's the big house, that's this, that's this. You're gonna take from the left of this. I'm gonna take from the right of this for now, or I'll take the bottom, like the first floor of these two houses, and you take the second floor of these two houses.
Dividing it up between us, it's critical. We're two guys, we can cover more ground, so dividing the work between us is a good way to go.
And passing that on when the next people come and switch us out if we're moving like that.
Mm-hmm.
So just as soon as they come, telling them, okay, you're looking at this area, you're looking at this area. That's it.
Always making sure the cover stays constant.
In terms of windows, you talked about watching those. What are some typical things you're watching for? Besides the obvious of a person being in a window, are there any other indicators that there might be a threat that might be coming to that window?
So cameras is a good one. In general, just looking for long objects that are sticking out the window that could, indicate an RPG or some kind of ambush.
Do they do any of the veils similar to what we do, like a few feet behind the window, the slanted veil at 45 to kind of catch light and kind of conceal things inside of it?
They can get pretty creative.
I haven't seen that from them, but
in general, you're always looking for something that's out of place.
Yeah.
Exactly. Also, if there's a neighborhood that's kind of been evacuated a couple weeks ago, and then you see a house that suddenly has there's like a hole in the wall and it's been patched up or something, so you kind of think like, who patched that up? Like, why? Who's here?
Also, knowing your environment, after you've been there for a week or so, in Gaza, for example, all the buildings are just, bombed out. So all of a sudden you find a building, you open a corner and you see a building that's untouched. That stands out, and that's something that you're going to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Also within buildings, I was in a couple of buildings where you go in, you're clearing rooms, you get to a door and you see the door has already been kicked in before. And if you're the first soldiers going into that room, that's obviously a little bit weird. You don't know if it's looters or if it's Hamas moving through houses looking for good emplacements. So you always want to treat that carefully and just assume that someone else has been in that house recently.
Gentlemen, now, I know you guys, this is pretty basic, but would you mind showing us some of your basic movement techniques, actually showing as lead marksman and lead gunner how that would look like for the audience as you're watching for street? Obviously, we are in the middle of Idaho, so we're going to pretend there are buildings, but if you could do that for us.
All right, so let's just imagine that this right down here in the middle is a street. You have buildings on that side, buildings on that side, and then more dense buildings like a kasbah, which is like a dense sort of marketplace over there. So basically, this is where we would not want to be. We would never be standing here in the middle of this. What we would probably do is have a tank come in here, maybe a D9 bulldozer, come through first, clear the street looking for mines, and then we would be going through the houses on the side over there, either literally going through the houses one at a time through the walls, or we'd be going around them and between them basically. So let's kind of show that. Let's pretend like there's a row of houses over there. We'll just talk about how we work together as the lead machine gunner and lead designated marksman. Imagine this is basically a wall of buildings over here. Let's just say that we have a tank over here putting cover on this wall, and you have people in the houses on the other side of the street on the same pace as us who are looking at these windows up here. So we're going to be right up against the wall. We're going to be focusing forward and to the left basically, looking for targets, moving forward, and communicating with our platoon commander who's right behind us.
Lev, do you have any spacing off the wall, or are you guys right up against them?
It depends. It's kind of a balance on where you feel there's more danger coming from.
Sure.
Because I'd probably rather be up against a wall than to be, more out in the street.
Mm-hmm.
And also wherever you can, if you ever stop, get low, get as low as you can. Look for stuff to get behind. So basically, if you want to move along there, I'll just follow you. Maybe moving along. If you're looking forward, I'm looking there. To the sides, moving along, and I can say, stop, wait a second. See that over there? And there's something weird about that vehicle parked next to it. Was that there earlier yesterday?
Scanning it.
All right, cool. Check out that. I'm gonna talk to the MM real quick. Yo, there's a weird vehicle right over there. You see it? That one? Want to send the drone over there? We'll check it out. All right, he's sending the drone. You want to move over? Right here. Want to move over deeper into there and get some better cover on the right over here?
Let's do it.
Yeah, you go
covering?
first. You go first. Go ahead. All right. I'm coming. All right, drop down here. I want to get right behind that little thing up there.
Let's do it.
Yeah, all right, go ahead. All right, drop low. Are you going over there? All right. Now, basically, we've gotten to a situation where we can now check out what's going on up there. We obviously our platoon commander is going to take control of that. We're just assuming a kind of defensive position, but it's a little bit aggressive up here. So we're in a position where we're controlling the threat over there. We're able to put down fire if we need to. And now in the back, they're going to bring up the drone. The drone guy's going to set up. We're in a good spot. Platoon commander is going to talk on the radio, tell everyone else to wait for a second. We're checking something out. They can go and check it out. And then once it's checked out, we'll keep going, basically.
In terms of the dynamic between the marksman and the machine gunner, where's his scanning? Where's his kind of sectors of fire versus where are yours?
It's a very organic thing.
It's very dynamic.
It's very dynamic, and it's also very organic because I've been working with my battle buddy in reserve duty for the last 7-8 years. So we basically we know each other so well that we don't even have to talk about it most of the time. We'll just say I'm over there at that house, I'm on the left, you're on the right, and that's it. And it's also kind of when you walk for a long time with the point guys in the front and the platoon commander in between and in the back, you just kind of get a sense, a sixth sense of where he is behind you and everything, and you work together very well. So yeah, it's not I wouldn't say it's always this guy looking here, this guy looking here. It's very dynamic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, well, let's get over to the rooms right here. Let's talk about coming across alleyways, coming across windows, and coming across rooms and going through those.
So before you enter a room, one more thing about the movement on the street. When choosing which side to be on the street, you also another threat factor is the sturdiness of the buildings. Some buildings have just gotten shot up so bad that they're just one little away from just falling down. It actually happened, we were waiting at a corner. I was leading my team, and right in front of me I see about a 7-8 story tall building, and it didn't even get shot or anything. It just out of nowhere just collapsed on itself. And there was another team of IED ordnance guys walking past it, and I was sure 2 of them got squished. But luckily they were on the other side, and they missed it by this much. Part of the job description for the lead guys is keeping the rest of the team away from the hazards.
Yeah.
And that's a big one.
Also, a tank firing next to you can put a shockwave that'll knock down a house, also knock down a wall.
Yeah.
By the way, something that's good to note here is that, assuming that this was a big kill zone, our only option isn't just to sprint across it. You can bring up a D9 bulldozer, and you can build little combat emplacements along the way, just little berms of dirt, and then you can leapfrog from those, and you can add those in. Basically, if you're missing a certain angle, you can just have a D9 throw up some dirt, and you can set up a machine gunner over there on that angle and get really good cover.
The use of the D9 is very specific to the IDF. I haven't really seen those outside. In other military usage. Do you want to speak to that a little bit? It's a very interesting combat technique.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they're invaluable, really. They're first of all, they got some balls sitting like 3 meters up in the air or whatever.
What is a D9 first off?
It's a Cat D9 bulldozer that's been up armored significantly. It's got a hook on the back. It's got a huge shovel in the front. It's got a cage on it. Usually I have 2 guys in there, like a commander and an operator. And basically they're just there to help out with everything. They can peel a wall off of a house for you so you can see what's inside. They can create a breaching hole by basically just peeling off a bit of a house. They can knock down walls. They can clear trees. They can clear anything, basically. They could drag 10 telephone poles behind them. It's pretty ridiculous. And they're just, if you find a tunnel, you can use them to check the entrance for mines because they're almost always mined. Sometimes you can find a tunnel because a D9 will just randomly explode a little bit. I say explode a little bit because they don't even, sometimes the D9 operators don't even notice when they run over a mine because you have an anti-personnel mine or something that just makes a little explosion. The guy's sitting in a 40-ton machine or 50-ton machine or something. Doesn't always necessarily feel it, but that's a good way to find a tunnel sometimes. And basically you can just use them also to make embankments. You can make a fortification. If you're forced to sleep outside somewhere in the middle of open field and you haven't gotten yet into buildings, you can have D9s build you what's called the Mignan, which is 3 or 4 walled just fortification of dirt
Just
walls.
build you a trench.
Exactly. They can dig some small trenches.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned up-armored bulldozers. I'd say Americans know a thing or two about up-armoring bulldozer.
Bulldozer, baby.
The killdozer. But no, truly it is a very interesting concept, and it's something to take away because it's been incredibly effective for the IDF and during urban combat.
Yeah, no, they're incredibly effective, and we gotta protect them basically. So one of the things that IDF has done a lot better in this war than in the previous war in Gaza is just really good dynamic work between tanks, D9s, bulldozers, the Air Force,
Infantry.
Infantry, everyone basically, because it's your job as infantry. Infantry and tanks basically cannot support themselves. Like tanks need close infantry support, and literally by close as in someone pointing their gun barrel at the tank, because sometimes the guy will run up, come out of a corner, come out of a house, come out of a tunnel, run up to a tank with a magnet mine or with an explosive mine, shove it on the tank and get out of there. And then you either try to shoot him before he gets to the tank, shoot him obviously after he gets to the tank. It's always a good idea to shoot him in general, but you can also shoot at the mine. And sometimes people have knocked magnet mines off of tanks because they're basically RPG warheads that are inverted and magneted on, and if they're not facing into the tank armor, they're basically just making a big explosion.
People might think of a magnetic mine as some very complex thing, but it's literally as simple as taking some rare earth magnets, gluing them to something that's explosive, and slapping those onto a vehicle.
But if you're in Hamas, it's very complicated. You'll never figure it out. Don't even try.
As the lead gunners, we're the first guys stepping into new territory, into enemy territory. So one of the things that help us out is walking where other armored vehicles or other people have walked. For example, tank treads, vehicle treads. That's going to be something that we just stick to that, and we're less worried about landmines and stuff like that.
It doesn't mean we're going to walk on a road, though. So if there's just a road that's there, we'd prefer to walk next to the road than on the road.
That's right.
Because the road is the classic place to set up an ambush for an armored vehicle.
Okay, so right here we have a simulated building. Obviously, these aren't real walls. They simulate walls. That way you can see through. For filming purposes, it's all pretend.
So basically the scenario here is that we're going into another house to search it and clear it and move forward through the territory. So basically this simulates like either a berm or just like a piece of debris that we're using as cover. There's already going to be a hole in the wall that's not a door because we don't go through doors. We make our own doors basically, so it's either going to be a breaching charge that we've ran up, laid, come back and blown, or it's going to be a hole from a tank round, or it's going to be maybe a D9 went in there and scraped off a little bit of the wall.
Why are you guys not using doors?
Doors are just super easy to, I mean, everyone predicts that people are going to go through doors, right? No one's going to just booby trap every single inch of the wall in their house. So when you go into the wall, much higher chance that you're going through a clean piece of the house.
Awesome.
יעקב! יעקב! יאללה, בוא ניכנס לבית הזה, בוא ניתן מכת אש קטנה על הקירות, על הבית בכללי מסביב, נתפס על הפינה הימנית שם ונדחוף פנימה. יאללה. יאללה. מכת אש! יאללה! אחד בלהלג! יאללה! יאללה, over there. Alright, אני איתך. Ready? רימון! רימון! 21, 22, 23, תשמע בפוצץ! יאללה! כניסה ברטוב? יאללה, איקן! כניסה ברטוב! נכנס! נכנסים! יאללה! דלג, יאללה! קבל! נפל! יאללה! עשית פתח? סוק, סוק את הבית! סוק את הבית, אני מחפה! סוק!
I got 2% on right
Good.
quarter.
You see anything in the house in your area?
Nope, we're clear.
Alright, let's go. Let's bring in some guys. Let's get it done. יעקב, תקרא למ"מ, תגיד לו שיכניס את החבר'ה. יאללה.
נקי, אפשר להיכנס.
Good job, Mike.
Good job.
Yeah, thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you.
Your first war crime. First recorded war crime.
First time fighting for Israel. So a lot just went on there, gentlemen, and I had no idea what the fuck you were saying. So let's go ahead and let's go through it one more time. Not as far as running it, but explain what you're doing from each position in English.
Sure. So, Jakob, you want me to take it away?
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, we're starting in this position. I kind of told him what we're going to do. It doesn't really matter. None of us is in charge of the other, but we're an organic team. And at the end of the day, It doesn't matter. If he has a better idea, he would tell me he has a better idea. I basically just said, we're gonna lay down some fire on the windows and around the building. We're gonna get some heavy fire. We're gonna run up and we're gonna get onto that right close corner to here. I'm gonna aim down, you're gonna aim at the door, then we're gonna go throw a grenade and go into the door, basically. So that's exactly what we did. From here, you know, from behind cover, we laid down some suppressive fire. If it was just our team, it would be us, but if we had a tank, we might ask him to pump a couple hundred rounds from the FN mag into there or something. We shot some. Obviously, if this was an actual house with windows, we would shoot into all the windows as well. And if there's anything in the surrounding houses in the direction of fire that we're allowed to do, because if you have a lot of troops, you're not going to just be shooting every direction. So in our direction of fire, we would shoot anything that looks like there might be someone behind it. So
what's the amount of men that you typically have conducting something like this?
Well, we usually go 4 guys into a house, because the more people going into the house, the higher the the casualty rate can be if the house is booby trapped. So we try to go in with the small team, clear, and then we're gonna, if there's a second floor, we're gonna clear the first floor, bring in another pair of people to hold the stairwell, and then once the first floor is clear, go up, get the second floor, third floor, whatever. So try to keep it small, and then once it's cleared, then you can move in troops, which we did at the end, to kind of either make positions or take positions within the house and lay some fire downrange.
Okay, so as we're moving up to here, Lev took the right corner, and I took my corner over here on the opening we made. As soon as I got to this point, I saw the first terrorist, okay, and I opened fire on him and neutralized him. Okay, and then I get on my corner. Okay.
Yeah, by this point, Mike had already come up behind me, and Mike's here simulating another pair of soldiers.
Yeah.
So he came up, he tapped me on the shoulder to tell me that he was here. I told him basically what I'm looking at, and then he swapped me out, and now I'm available to come here and be with you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, once I know that he's with me, okay, then I went for my grenade. Lev told me that he took my my cover. Okay, then I was able to put down my weapon, go for my grenade, chuck it. And then we took a couple steps back, let it go up, okay? Yeah. And then basically we give a command to enter the house with live fire, okay? Which means we're going to be shooting at anything suspicious we see in the house, furniture, anything that could be a potential threat. So then we started entering. As soon as I entered this corner, I saw this terrorist, shot him up, okay, neutralized him. And then we both entered together, saw this guy, neutralized him. And then Lev took initiative and went to the far end of the house to start looking for more terrorists. Okay. In general, when you're taking over a new house, okay, you're usually on the front lines of the advancement. So it's pretty realistic that there's going to be a direction that we're going to expect there to be some kind of continuation of the combat. So Lev goes, opens this window, he sees a terrorist. Lev, you want to take it away?
Yeah. So obviously, I come out here. This is, obviously you don't usually have just cracks in the corners. Those are usually the strongest part of a building. But I came here, found an opening, look out it, see a terrorist over there. So shoot him, and I yelled, terrorist, so that he would know what I'm shooting at, basically.
Okay. Once I heard that there's continuation, my first instinct is to look for a way to support him. Okay, if the window is too small, I realize I can't get in with him and put 2 barrels on him. So I went through here. Lev finished neutralizing him, and over here we had 2 more guys simulated by Mike, searching for more insurgents.
And searching the inside of the house.
That was me.
Yeah, because before you can bring in all your guys, you're gonna want to clear the house not just from terrorists. First you go through and you look for immediate threats, terrorists, IEDs that are right out there in the middle or something. Then after that you can go through and look for it a little bit more closely. But the most important thing is to make sure you're not bringing all your friends into your house that's about to explode.
Exactly. That first sweep that you do, you're being as thorough as you can, but you're moving. Okay, you're moving, and you're not able to go down to the little details. So doing that final
up really high.
Doing that final search is critical, so that you can kind of stamp your signature on it to tell the rest of your guys, okay, you guys can come in, and not put them into a booby trap.
So again, guys, there's a lot to CQB. There's a lot to urban combat. These are some of the very simple, the simplest of movements.
Yeah.
To get building to building, to move down roads. There's a lot more to it. We're not here to make you experts. We're here to explain some things and to help you think a little bit more deeply about the subject of urban combat. With that being said, gentlemen, let's continue. So kind of wrapping up movement in urban combat situations, I think one thing to note is going to be forward line of own troops, otherwise known as a Flot. I understand that's a very fluid situation with what you guys have been dealing with. So if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, for sure. As opposed to like previous conflicts, basically in this conflict we've realized that there is no forward line of troops. Basically, and like they could be tunnels anywhere. You could pass over a section of dirt. You could cross over it with a D9 bulldozer, and there could still be a tunnel there. So you basically do 360 defense always. You have some lines of fire that are more closed off than others because you know there's troops over there. But in general, especially when it comes to like doing close support on tanks and stuff like that, basically it's 360 defense that people could pop out of any location, any house, and whenever you leave a house and come back to it later, it's as if you've never been there. Basically, you have to open it up and clear it from scratch and check for booby traps, mines. Some people have been in the same house 10, 12, 15 times, and then they come back one time and it's booby trapped. So it's
Are there any things to look for that might indicate a booby trap?
I mean, there's some stuff you can do when you leave your house that if you want to make sure that it's not being booby trapped. You can put clear tape over the doorways and stuff. You can close stuff in a certain way. You can move furniture around so you can see if it's been moved when you come back. And generally also, we just kind of want to close off the houses when we leave them because we don't want cats to come in and take shits in our kitchens. Yeah. So.
Now, this video is brought to you by Rocky Boots. If you're not familiar with Rocky Boots, I am. I spent a lot of time in my military career using them. Let's talk about them. Since World War II, Rocky Boots is making the world's best combat boots for the U.S. and international allied forces, including complete lines for all the different branches, such as the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, sometimes the Coast Guard, and of course my favorite, the Air Force. Actually, back in the day, you were issued really terrible boots in basic training, of course. And when you'd see somebody rocking around with Rocky S2Vs, these guys right here, you'd be like, oh man, he's got the S2Vs, bro. What is up? It was a pretty big deal, and we were all pretty stoked about them. So when we got to wear them, it was awesome. And if you need to stay within regulations for the military, I can't think of a better boot. Now, later on in my career, they really didn't care what we wore, so didn't wear them so much after that. But if you have to stay in regulation, they rock. Today, Rocky is still proudly designing boots to protect men and women who compromise the elite forces of our country, as well as the law enforcement, public servants, and of course, the firefighters that protect our communities. So what I want you guys to do is click the link right below my bio, sign up for my code for 25% off Rocky military and public service products. Very kind of them. Go and check it out, guys. We love them so much. Thank you, Rocky Boots. Let's get back to the video. So we've covered a lot of information from kits to combat movement. Let's talk about weapon systems right here. Gentlemen, please, on you.
So this is a SAW. Obviously, usually I run a Negev light machine gun, but this is the same optics combo that I use. So I like to have the EOTech with the flip-up magnifier. If I wasn't the point machine gunner, I probably wouldn't put on a magnifier just for the weight and the simplicity. But being that we're both out in the front, I like to be able to look out a little bit farther, see farther ahead of me, help look for cameras and stuff like that, look for ambushes. And it's just, fun. You can draw smiley faces on walls and stuff from far away.
Is this what you do in your off time?
I can't comment on that. And then I have the IDF issued, I think, old Elbit laser on mine, just an IR laser, and then I put a Streamlight flashlight on the left side. I actually modified my Negev by screwing with my multi-tool, screwing on a plastic Picatinny rail to the bottom, so I could add a vertical foregrip just like this. And then the Negev lets you fold the stock in, and what I really like about that is it was super easy to switch stocks like this with the stock right in your chest. You get really easily get around corners like that. And then the Negev also has 150 round drums. I would carry one here, one here, one here, one in the pack. And then on my battle belt right here, another 120 rounds or something. Then I have an extra 1,000 back in the rucksack.
Are you guys just carrying M855? Is it
we have green tip, yeah, exactly. We both do. Designated marksman and machine gunners both have green tip.
Do you want to talk to the feet? I know we had different opinions.
So that was something interesting that Mike and I were talking about. Basically, the default, basically in the IDF, at least where I am, is you walk around with them open up like this, so that if you need to sprawl down, you can just sprawl down in a second with them already open.
Very athletic.
Which is nice to do. You were saying you guys walk around with them folding backwards a lot. What we do usually, possibly because of the Negev design, once you have a handle over here, you can't fold them backwards.
Okay.
Also, the PTT cable will get in the way and stuff, so I would fold them. If I wanted to, I would just fold them forwards like this, and then this is nice because I can really easily rest this on Exactly. So I can really easily rest this on something like that. Maybe get some contrast against it. And also if I want to really steady it, I can actually put my hand on one of these while it's rested forward, and I can crank down on the whole thing and get super steady. And also if there's a broken window, I can use these to gently smash out the rest of the glass of the window and then clear the window frame so I'm not going to cut myself.
Yep. Obviously, these are different from the Negev.
Yeah, a bit different. But, you know, use them for similar stuff. Also, if you're shooting through bars on a window, which a lot of them have, you can really easily rest those on the bars of the window and get to a good position.
There's something for everything, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Tactics are 100% going to change.
Yeah.
In terms of the ammunition, are any of your teammates carrying belts of ammo for you as well?
I mean, I have occasionally, if we're going somewhere far away without a lot of resupply, I'll throw in some extra belts with other people. But people have enough stuff to carry in general. I like to carry my own ammo. I'm of the firm belief that designated marksmen, who are always the battle buddy of a Negev, are a little bit weaker mentally, and that's why they're marksmen and not machine gunners. So I try not to, you know, make their life too hard.
Of course, yeah. You don't want to make it too difficult.
I mean, this guy's actually a machine gunner, like before he switched units.
So in my team, I'm usually running a light machine gun Negev also. A funny story, when we were first going into Gaza, they told us that we weren't going to have resupply for a little above 48 hours. So what we ended up doing is I took my usual 4 drums and I put in a 5th, and then my battle buddy took 2 more drums. So it's like 7 drums or something like that.
Yeah.
So we went in heavy, and later regretted it. We didn't have to bring that much, but we wanted to be better safe than sorry, you know.
100%.
I mean, yeah, for sure. And then sidearms. Talk about your current setup, because
go through your sidearm as well right now.
Okay. Yeah. So my sidearm over here, this isn't exactly indicative of it, but M&P 2.0 compact, 17 round magazine.
Did you choose the M&P because of our video?
Partly. But
let's go.
Mostly I just use that video if anyone shits on it.
Okay, fair enough.
And they're like, you need the Glock. The Glock is the reliable gun, you know? It's the reliable one. You hear that all the time, right? Of course he does. He's a fucking Glock fanboy. But basically everyone's like, you need the Glock, only the Glock. I'm like, you can buy other things besides for Glock. It's like, you know, everyone's working on it. I have a red dot on here and a flashlight. And actually on the 7th of October, I didn't have a flashlight yet on my Negev. So we were just like straight up drafted and thrown into it. So I actually cleared a lot of the houses in Kfar Aza, like the Israeli houses, with just my handgun and with this slung to the side like that, basically. And cleared them with the handgun, with the flashlight, going to the rooms.
Wild.
Yeah.
All right, so like I said, in my team, I'm usually a light machine gunnist, but there was definitely a month in Gaza where I joined up with a different unit, and I was lead marksman. So basically, a marksman gun in the IDF, it's gonna look a lot like this. It's standard M4, flat top, with an ACOG optic. Personally, I added a piggyback. Prefer so I have something for close range. And the IDF issued M4 is gonna come with little legs here.
The bipod.
The bipod. I don't like them. They're heavy, and it doesn't feel right for my hand. And I think it's a personal preference. What you shoot best with is what you should do. So I like to keep it clean without a grip. Yeah, flashlight and PEC.
Now, in terms of your flashlights, you are keeping caps on those for
So we actually we have someone sew these basically like cloth covers for them. They're basically like a stretchy material.
Okay.
And you just kind of stick it on. It's stuck on, and if you want to pull it off, you pull it off.
Nice.
And yeah, just to minimize any risk of flash.
Now, and to be clear, you're using the this is the battery powered ACOG. It's what we had on hand.
Right.
But
So
you're using the fiber optic ACOG.
So active service combatants are using this one.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Okay. But I haven't used it. They didn't have it when I was in active service. Yeah.
Now, I've noticed that you guys haven't talked about suppressors at all. Is that because they're not issued?
So only certain units are going to have them. It's usually tier 1 units.
Okay.
We haven't used them at all.
Is this something you'd like to have on your weapons?
A suppressor?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, I'd like that. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I feel like combat is so loud anyway with heavy machine guns and with tanks firing and shit. And like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it can be really loud with someone shooting, but
It'd be nice to have the option, though.
I wouldn't put extra weight on my negative. It's already so fucking heavy.
No, not on negative.
Not on the negative.
No.
Interesting. Yeah. So I mean, at night, I guess that's kind of the big thing.
Yeah,
But
the
are
short
you?
barrel negative makes a huge fireball at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful in a way, you know?
Yeah.
I
yeah.
get it. You got to put down that suppressing fire. You guys seen a lot of night fighting, or did they not come out at night?
The night fighting is more static in both directions. There have been some situations where they come and try to overrun posts at night, but usually it's not
Usually it's a daytime skirmish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that due to lack of nods or thermals on their end?
I would say so. Yeah. I would say they fear our ability to
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah.
with the thermals and the nads. Yeah.
Fair enough. You want to talk to your handgun?
Yeah.
It's my
So
baby.
yeah, so I usually run a Glock 19. It's a Glock 17, but it's pretty close to what I use. I have a mounted optic, Holliston SCS, and also I run the TLR8 flashlight and laser. Yeah, it's also like for like small bathrooms and stuff like that. When you're running a machine gun and you're opening really small corners like that, really small like meter on meter rooms, you're gonna go for the handgun.
Yeah, also if you have to crawl up into a crawl space or something, I've had a couple situations where like above the doorway there's like a crawl space for storage. So you climb on up there, and you're not going to be using machine
Yeah,
gun.
you're just gonna climb up and
Climb
you're
up
gonna
with the
handgun
ladder
it.
like that. Also
Yeah.
inside Israel in Kfar Aza on the 9th of October, we were going up to a lot of roofs. So climbing up to the roof on a ladder, you're gonna poke up your head on the ladder with the handgun and not go up with your machine gun.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, obviously, when it comes to the weapons that you guys are using, these are issued. You're in a professional military. There's really not going to be much of a choice when it comes to them. And oftentimes, you can see with whatever they have, they make it work. And that's a big thing that you saw in the United States military or any military. So, there's always going to be that element when we're talking about the weapons that you guys are issued and what you're you have what you work with, and that's what you get. There's not really much you can do about it.
Yeah. Although gear, I guess, is the exception.
Yeah.
And I think in this war especially, there's been so much donation money coming in from the Jewish community. So many people who are no longer in a unit who want to donate back to people in our unit. So we've kind of been upgrading our gear the whole time.
Nice.
And I think we kind of see that's super important when you get new gear, obviously, to go out and test it and run around in it before you get to combat.
Sure.
Don't be a dumbass and like cross the border into Gaza and be like, oh, my backpack's uncomfortable. You're a dumbass.
Yep.
Test it on your base.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you for talking about the weapons. Let's talk a little bit about October 7th. It was a pretty interesting scenario, and I know there's some good lessons learned there. So let's go ahead and roll into that.
Yeah.
So a lot of people might not be familiar with what October 7th was and how it kind of redefined a lot of combat for you guys. So if you could explain what October 7th was, and then explain a lot of the combat and how things were kind of different during that time.
Basically, October 7th was a super well coordinated, really hardcore attack across the border, the southern border with Gaza by Hamas. It started with, leading up to it, basically systematically removing and overpowering the surveillance systems, the surveillance systems on the border. So sending drones in to attack surveillance towers, taking out cameras. And then there was like a very heavy rocket barrage in the morning. Personally, I was in Beersheba at my parents' house with my wife, and you were with your kid there basically. And so we all went into our bomb shelters, and that's kind of what they were counting on, is having a really powerful long barrage to keep people's heads down. Then they had a multi-pronged approach where they crossed the border by ramming and having bulldozers ram holes in the fence. Like enough holes to basically overwhelm any quick reaction force that could come in and counterattack. Having paragliders who came in, Hamas paragliders, you'd have one or two guys on a paraglider come in and dismount and start setting up roadblocks on roads and attacking, and just having a ton of classic, Middle East white pickup truck full of terrorists just crossing again and again, having a ton of those, and having terrorists on dirt bikes who were super mobile. And the idea was to go and attack and overwhelm the bases, kidnap or slaughter everyone on the army bases on the border, and also attack all of the kibbutzim, which are like small communal villages on the border. And they also, the reason they did it on that date specifically was because of the Nova Music Festival, which was a huge music festival where they killed and raped hundreds of people at the festival and kidnapped a bunch of them, and turned it into just a straight up massacre. So one of the hardest things for the IDF on this day was that the QRFs were set up to take on small individual attacks. So, each kibbutz had their own quick reaction. It's called the Kitat Koranut, which is like a readiness party that has a couple guys maybe, and you have the guy in charge, and they're ready for someone to come and attack a certain house, or one guy on the border, one guy to attack this. You have, people getting ambushed with hundreds of terrorists outside of their houses, just getting absolutely cut down. And like the security at the music festival of like a dozen cops or whatever with Glock 19s, 2 mags each or something like that, just getting absolutely torn apart by PK fire and AK fire. And you
RPGs.
have RPGs. A lot of people basically take shelter from the rockets, and those shelters turn into their final resting places, because people would go into like in Israel in the south, you have a lot of bomb shelters and rocket shelters that are just next to bus stops. People would go into them, get trapped inside, and Hamas terrorists would come and throw grenades inside. When people run out, just gun them down basically. It turned into a very chaotic situation. People didn't quite understand what was going on in the beginning, and it took just way too long to get it under control. All the QRF teams that went in were just hit really heavily, took really heavy casualties, and you ended up having like a couple of helicopters per each area, and they're just the guys killing dozens, if not tens of terrorists, taking really heavy casualties. And you have some really crazy stories from that. I was only involved in that on the 8th and 9th. I went in to Kfar Aza, which is one of the villages that got hit very hard. You were involved from the first day. But basically, I was drafted on the first day, and then they didn't really quite know what to do with us, because there were already so many forces converging on the area, held us back a little bit, and then sent us in after to start clearing bodies. But why don't you talk about your experience?
So on the 7th, after we got the message to go to base and arm up, this was around like 12 in the afternoon. We spent 2 hours gearing up, and we made it to the south on our Hummers. And I remember when we were on the road, road number 6. I'm just seeing all these cars like running away from the south, like just traffic jam of cars running away from the south, and we're just going down. So like whatever they're running from, we're going towards it. I remember once we passed a certain point, like we were like in the area of like that south of Gaza, we started seeing just carnage along the streets, just bodies all along the streets of terrorists. I saw a car with civilian casualties as well. It looked like The Purge. It looked like something out of the movie The Purge. Just cars burning, fire, destruction everywhere. We went to a kibbutz called Kibbutz Saad, and we holed up over there. And from there, we went out to scanning missions, just searching the surrounding nature and surrounding agricultural fields for stragglers, for any terrorists that may be hiding there. During one of our missions, we actually found we had a report of a terrorist hiding in a orchard, and me and my team were doing a scan of the orchard, which is just everyone just gets a strip of their own. In between each line of trees is a strip. Guy on my team sees the terrorist from 5 meters away. It's slow moving, slowly through the orchard. Sees him 5 meters away, puts 3 in him, and then neutralizes him. We ended up checking his phone, and we found out that he was one of the guys basically helping Hamas find. So he was a scout, basically just finding stragglers and killing civilians. So from there, after the search parties that we were doing around the kibbutz, we got the mission to retake the base Nahal Oz. We went to the base, and at the front gates of the base, we were contacted by a terrorist from inside the base. We took cover, returned fire, and the platoon commander called in a tank to take out the terrorist. After the terrorist was neutralized, we started clearing the base of terrorist threats, and once it was clear, we basically got the mission of clearing out 70 casualties of our own soldiers, male and female, some of them non-combatant. A good portion of them weren't even combatants. Bodies were mutilated, and we basically just bagged them and brought them back home.
Obviously, you're dealing with a tough situation. There are no rules in this conflict as far as their side, so you're dealing with a lot of very tough situations. Now, what were some things and tactics that they did once you were entering these locations to clean up bodies that put you guys in vulnerable situations that you weren't aware of until, it occurred that day?
So they were basically booby trapping dead bodies, like taking grenades, for example, removing the handle and basically just removing the pin and leaving it under a body, and then when paramedics or soldiers will come to the dead body and touch it, move it, the grenade will go off and injure soldiers.
So they pull the pin out and the handle will be against the body.
Exactly.
So when the body's moved, the handle will pop off and start to fuse.
They were also doing that.
Time.
They were also doing that with bags, like putting them in bags, kind of, so that when you touch the bag or step on it. Also, RPG warheads. They were leaving weapons behind and booby trapping the weapons. Yeah.
Were there any ambushes when it came to that? As far as like recovering dead bodies, where they'd be in wait?
I didn't really see that because, it's kind of like at that point it was retaking Israel. So there's so many soldiers in the area. The choppers that Lev was talking about, they kind of just hit and ran.
Okay.
But there were some stragglers, but not many.
There were also a lot of Gazan civilians basically that took the opportunity to cross the border and start looting. So you have like guys who come in with their like donkey cart or whatever and start loading up washing machines and TVs and stuff. Had those guys, and that was also in the beginning that Hamas said that they couldn't even say how many prisoners they had because they didn't have all the prisoners. So basically people were just taking their own prisoners because they knew they'd be worth something eventually. And a lot of the guys that we ran into in Kfar Aza, we went into after Kfar Aza was already partially retaken, we went in and finished taking it on the 8th and 9th. And we basically cleared it house to house at night, and then we set up basically bases inside civilian houses, and we set up a line, basically a friendly line, and then the next day we cleared the rest of it, and we bagged, like you said, and protected the non-combatants and combatants who had the unfortunate job of having to bag up Israeli civilians and remove them. So we saw a lot of that, and we saw a lot of just butchered Israelis in their homes, and I think it was just the creepiest thing was just the fact that it was like a city, like a neighborhood that I wasn't familiar with that one, but it was very similar to ones that I lived in Israel, and it was just like completely empty of life. It was just here and there a soldier, and you'd have maybe a cat walking around, and there were just dead dogs and dead people in the street, dead terrorists everywhere. Tanks had like run over cars while trying to get a better firing position, burning cars, burned out houses. Like a lot of houses have, or all new houses in Israel are built with a safe room, and a lot of the safe rooms were just RPG'd open basically. So someone would just shoot in through the wall, and it was just really creepy. It was really, really very, very eerie.
I think when it comes to that, there's a definite thing we have to speak to, which is urban civilian readiness, right?
Yeah.
So despite where you are, no matter where you are, we've talked about it in past survival situations. In videos that we've done, but you never know when the situation's going to hit you. As safe as you can be, obviously Israel, being so close to the border to people who hate you, you're going to get a little bit more of that than what we see, obviously, here in the United States. But nonetheless, the information that we're showing here, that we're presenting here, is incredibly valuable. And the time that you need it, that you absolutely need it, it's too late to learn it. So this is where it's really important to take these lessons that we've talked about today and begin to implement them into your own training. That's going to be extremely important. Gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and finish up here, and I can't thank you guys enough for coming on. Do you want to have any final thoughts for the guys before you go?
I mean, just got to be ready. You got to be ready to make the mental switch. There's, you have your civilian life. You're going day to day. You're with your family. You're with your loved ones. You're at a music festival. You're wherever. When the shots start flying, the bullets start flying, you got to be able to make that switch, go into survival mode, and either save yourself, get out of there, or go towards the gunfire and find terrorists and kill them. You have people who had just the handgun they had on them, maybe one spare magazine, who went out, fought to a long gun, whether it was from a fallen soldier or from a fallen terrorist, and then some of them literally took uniforms off of dead soldiers so they could put them on so they wouldn't be misidentified by friendlies and killed, and who fought to their loved ones and created just groups of other survivors and fought out. And you got to be ready for it, and you just be ready to protect the ones you love and the people you love and the country you love, and just stay always ready.
Yeah, get some training. These people in all these settlements on the 7th of October, they didn't see this coming. It could happen. It could happen to anyone, unfortunately. Get training, take it seriously, and be aware, and know how to make the switch.
Awesome. Gentlemen, can't thank you guys enough. We've given a lot of dad advice today, a lot of advice in general. Train, be good with what it is, be ready to protect your loved ones. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Tons more survival content coming. We got nothing else for you.